at Quest. Can you give us a specific example of a program you'd like to highlight?
First, shout out to Brian for reducing the number of controls that we have to respond to in an
Yeah, I
RMS
like the
package.
sound of that.
They're draft baselines, Chris. Public
Well,
comment
you know what?
period.
You have to start somewhere, sir. You start somewhere. So when we look at our agency partners, they're our favorites. Anyway, anyone that's in service or out of service. So those in active duty, for instance, as well as our veterans. So a lot of the programs we've worked on, and Brian, I appreciate your comments around legacy 10-year-old processes, because we work with agencies that have 20, sometimes 30-year-old processes. Mm-hmm. And they came to us and they're trying to modernize. But at the same time, you're modernizing, you want to pull off that trick of helping an end user see that, hey, nothing's really changed. We've changed everything under the surface, but for you, nothing's really changed. To do that, that means the processes they've been using, whether it's identification, authentication, those things kind of have to remain the same. So we worked with DoD partners, for instance, to bring in that legacy infrastructure that they've built on usually Microsoft technologies, for instance, but then helping them spread that technology across the cloud, whether it is Microsoft-based, Azure-based, for instance, or AWS, and helping them integrate those identity principles across multiple control planes, or we call it multi-cloud, or as Mike called it, C2E. For them, that is critical, because when you have someone on the front line, or even someone who's come back from the front line, for instance, that is a complexity they don't need, for instance. So making sure those identities work across those different control planes without having to give them multiple identities, for instance, is critical. I, as an end user, know for one, when I come in the morning, I expect to be able to use every application with this persona. I don't want to have to, if you use an iPhone that required 4 faces to open, you'd break it against the wall. So helping them, both in service and out of service veterans, for instance, and active duty, for instance, be able to use applications in the same way they have used them, I would say, for the last 20 years, may sound trivial, but from an end user satisfaction and mission deployability capability standpoint, that's critical to infrastructure. So working with identity across those planes for us is a critical mission. And that's not just in DoD, that's across the entire federal government. As Brian said, there's so many aging systems, but you have end users that will still expect those systems to perform as advertised or have the same SLAs. And I think we provide a great set of solutions to help an agency, one, identify, to migrate, consolidate, and secure those identities across multiple control planes as we move to the cloud.